here are just some topics I just added right now. And if you have anything else you want to add, we can add it right now. I think this last one is just some thoughts around the SSR app example.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's a message from the chat, Viet. I'm just a newbie in FE, but really interested in Imba. I'm about to make some kind of static pages, maybe for presenting products. Previously, I would use HTML plus Tailwind / Bootstrap plus jQuery, but using Imba is a pleasure. So I wonder if SSR, static site generation in Imba, is ready for normal use. Is there any big limitation compared to client-side rendering? So I'll add those questions in there. Let's see.
Yeah. We can go through them now, like start with that.
Yeah, let's start with that then.
I think we did cover some of this in the last meeting, so it might be useful to check that out. It's obviously not really, it depends on what you mean with SSR and static pages, because people mean a lot of different things. So one thing is just server-side rendering, where you actually run things on the server and the server takes in requests and responds with HTML. The other is static pages, where you probably expect pages to actually be created as static HTML files and being able to be served from like just a regular file-based hosting service without running anything in the background, like without running an actual server to process the requests. And another thing, I guess, is the mix of having server-side rendering and also client-side functionality, like event handlers and logic on the client.
It would be nice to have an Imba version of Hugo for static site generation.
Yeah, so when we're talking about static site generation, which it sounds like most people are talking about when you talk about SSR, then the status is just the same that it was the last time. Right now, there aren't any library or any functionality in Imba itself to provide that, but someone could start implementing it around an Imba SSR app, like the example that we posted, that's Alexander posted at the bottom here. This is our app. You could theoretically create a script in that application that starts the server, like runs the actual SSR server, and then accesses a few different paths, and then saves the output from those paths into a static directory. That would be kind of my go-to approach to support static site generation now.
Yeah, I think we could even do it simpler, right? So, because like that approach, like I think something like this would even be enough. Where is it? Let's see. I created an issue, this one. Like if I could just, like, I was playing around with this, I was thinking, okay, let me use Imba for a new project here. And I would just create a new script to build it, but you end up with, when you try to turn this into HTML or string, you end up with this weird error message that I don't understand. Cannot read property append child of undefined.
Let me see, could you just scroll down?
Oh yeah, let's see, sorry. I can zoom out if it's
but big. Do you have so you have an actual app file there as well, like app.imba?
Yeah, this is from the example. So I'm just using the current example and just appending one file, right? Clone this repository, and then this is the minimal thing I do. I just add this.
Yeah, so I guess that might be because when the HTML renders in a node request context, it adds some routing information and stuff. It might be related to that. I haven't really looked into the error message now, but what you show there should definitely be possible.
Yeah, it is possible with, it is working in other cases, but as soon as you use this app thing, it just explodes with the error message. So I thought like this would be the straightforward way to.
But I think that's if you look at the /app now, if you go to the repository like SSR app Imba, and you show the src and then app.imba, I think it's actually failing in the URL is document.location.href, because document.location doesn't exist when you try to render a tag outside of either the client or a node request context. So if you remove that line, URL is document location href, then I think it should work. But at the same time, the routing won't work because you don't set, you have no way to actually set the URL you.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah. I think I tried, like one thing I tried was taking everything in app and then just inlining it. And that worked. Like replacing this app and inlining everything that was in there and preserving the indentation, that works. So I don't think there's any issue with that document thing, but I'll try that. I'll try that after the call and see, and then just update this issue. But for me, like I think in order to use Imba this way, statically, this would be enough just to be able to reliably produce text from.
Yeah, but again, there are many subtleties there, because you reference a module with an SRC, which in the Imba world will actually compile to a client-side script and bundle with a specific unique hash for that version of the bundle and stuff. So it's not enough to just save the stringified HTML to disk and expect that static HTML file to actually open up in your browser, unless you don't include any scripts like that, or you actually make it rewrite URLs to assets and stuff. So there are definitely a lot of things remaining for this to be a good option for generating static sites, I think.
Yeah, I get that. So the paths would be like, this would be some generated app.xyz and so on.
And if you have some styles that refer to a PNG file that you also have in the project, then that will refer to a /_assets /blah asset.hash.png. Things like that will need to be rewritten and fixed for the static HTML to work. So there's
also if we have dynamic routes, we might want to have a YAML file or something containing all of the keys in the database that it's running off of, so that we know which routes to be dynamically generating, so that we produce pages for all of them.
Yeah. So since the one problem here is that I don't really have any experience with full static site generators, because I have always actually created a server part that takes care of responding to things and rendering dynamically. Like, what are the main use cases? Is it like marketing pages? I'm guessing it can't be for really large pages, I guess, with lots of different.
So you mean, what's the use case for static sites in general? I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a static site is fine if you think about it. It's just like a site without any real client-side functionality. But
blog
what
site,
is that?
API documentation. Blog sites, API documentation.
Like just from a high level, for me personally, like I think like it's the SEO part, it's the speed, and you want to use Imba, but you want to, let's say you want a landing page for something, you want to capture some emails, that part is fully static. You can easily deploy it via something like Netlify, Vercel, GitHub Pages, and so on.
Yeah, so but that's my main question, because when you talk about SEO stuff, that's obviously the same for regular SSR apps as well. You don't need static site generation to do that. Like Scrimba serves every page as a static page seen from the view of crawlers and users.
Yeah, right.
But there are no generated HTML files in folders there.
Yeah, that's a valid point. But then I would highlight or emphasize the deployment part, right? It's easier to deploy something to if it's static, like everything is files and it's just served straight away. it's much easier to deploy something like that to Netlify and all of these other services instead of having to run a virtual VPS that runs your node express thing and then serves it up.
And then we don't need to worry about the port number and trying to mask that with server configuration.
Yeah, so that's, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the importance of the static site generation, and it sounds like it's mostly about ease of deployment.
For me, I would say yes. It's definitely you can deploy sites inexpensive, cost nothing to run them for at least for low traffic. And then, so deployment factor is a huge thing for me. But I'm not saying this is for everybody. Like maybe, what's his name? Andre, maybe he has other use cases.
Yeah. So I would probably need to look more into how the static site generated frameworks do it now, because I don't really have a good deep understanding of how you actually deal with the dynamic data. I'm sure you load in some files or something from your database. Let's say you fetch a bunch of blog posts and you run. Like, how and where do you actually decide that I want to generate static pages for all these 25 objects or URLs or whatever? Do you separate the configuration from the actual static site views and templates, or?
Yeah, I see.
I just need to get a better understanding of both the use case, so I can definitely see the point of ease of deployment, but to even give a good answer about where Imba is when in terms of static site generation, how viable it is to use in the near future for that, I would need to put some more effort into understanding it and researching the different popular alternatives today.
Yeah, it seems to be a recurring theme, at least. I don't mean to spend too much time on this, but I wanted to reply to like the questions you had. It's not like this is the main thing for me, at least, but I see it's repeated.
Okay, I just put in a link to the Hugo static site generator. Yeah, that was created in Go, and it's extremely popular now.
Let me add that to the. I'll add that to the link. Sindre has probably looked at it before. But
no, I really haven't, but I'll definitely look into it now.
There is also another website, I'll add that later, which lists all of the static site generators, and I think there's some kind of ranking. Anyway, so the next question was that, or this was something Peter asked. I tried to reply to it. Is Imba ready for production use?
That's also a good question. For me, it's definitely ready, but it is clearly a big challenge that there are still relatively poor documentation, and that the community is so small, and that there isn't a large ecosystem around Imba. Again, for me, it's I wouldn't hesitate using it for anything in production now, but it's difficult for me to, like, I'm in a kind of a unique situation there. So yes. In short, yes. Again, it depends on what you want to use it for. It's the use case it's most ready for is single page applications, like actual client side stuff where you don't even necessarily do any rendering on the server, where you actually load a application on the client and do all the rendering and everything from that. There, I would definitely say it's production ready.
Cool. So I think like one stumbling block for me is the VS Code extension, right? The squiggly lines, the false positives and so on. It's like you're learning the language while you're not really sure. And so what's the status on the VS Code extension? Is it ready? Is
yeah,
it better
so it's
now?
still, it is better now, but it's still like it takes a long time. I've been working on it all day today as well. I have to research and decide whether or not to. I could probably ship the new version that we have now, which is better, but there are some underlying flaws in it that I know we will need to address soon. So today I also tried a different approach that I've thought about for some time, where we, instead of spawning our own TypeScript language server, we actually use the TypeScript language server plugin API and spawn, kind of launch the VS Code extension as not a VS Code extension, but as a plugin to the TypeScript VS Code extension. And that seems to be a very good approach. And the things it will solve is that it will add automatic type inference for node modules. It will be faster because it uses the TypeScript language server, has all sorts of crazy caching mechanisms for completions, for like auto imports and making sure to not invalidate these and these files when some files change. They have all sorts of stuff that you get for free. So when we don't use that, I still experience, when I just use the new tooling, there are from time to time the completions suddenly take a long time because something is synchronously happening on the server part of the extension. So there are so many messy things that I need to work out.
But if you ship the current version now, like, well, what's the downside to using that compared to the current version which is out there?
That's a good question. I don't think there are many downsides. There's one downside is that it is even it has some problems with not watching for changes to, like, if you add node modules, if you delete files, there are many edge cases where you will need to reload the project for the completions and diagnostics to work reliably.
Yeah, but let's say you write from the experience of writing, so auto completion can stop working, but it's not like, will it interrupt with writing? Will it add like stuff into your file while you're writing, or can you just write?
No, it won't. So it is probably better. It's just always the challenge of when do you actually release and when do you first try to nail down concepts before you release, because often it's frustrating as well to release too soon, because you end up just generating more technical debt. And once you release something, until you actually really solved and fleshed out the concepts in a good way, it tends to come back and bite you, in my opinion, in my experience. So I'm just kind of hesitant to do that. But again, as every other day last week, the intent was to actually ship it today. So let's hope I'll be able to ship it tomorrow. We could now say that we could plan now that I will actually just ship the current version that is in many ways already better, and then if it doesn't work for people, then they can just roll back. I think it should be possible to install older version of VS Code extensions. Not later today, but tomorrow, because I'm actually, after this meeting, I have to go do other errands. But yeah.
Will the VS Code extension be able to pick up symbols that are being introduced by assignments to global this?
We talked about this last meeting. So again, the version, if we push out something tomorrow, it will not. It will be able to at least suppress the errors. I have to think. I think it actually should work. I can't promise that, but yeah. There are some quirks, like as long as you extend, are you talking about in the client side or just generally? Like if you extend global or global this, it should work. But if you extend window, like the global window, then I don't think it will be picked up.
Well, what I'm doing is a quasi-natural language syntax. So I'm giving it a recognize and a verb form. Then I'm stemming the verb form and creating the gerund version of that, and then assigning both of those to a function that will tie into the generic function code that I'm writing, so that I can just simply say recognize add, and that will define both add and adding to access the generic function. So currently, in order to suppress errors, I'm having to have the user type the gerund form himself, whereas I want the code to just automatically generate that for him.
So is it important for you to actually have auto completions and kind of go to definition working for that, or do you only want to suppress the errors?
Really, just suppressing the errors would be enough, because I don't want to falsely make someone think that they have an error to deal with if they're using the package.
But then you could let me think. I'm trying to. I thought these errors
is I'm using and destructuring assignment. So I have the list of add and adding, making the user manually create that. Then I'm saying equals recognize add as a string. Then internally, the string is getting transformed into the other verb forms, and that's being assigned back. But it'd be much cleaner if I could just simply say recognize add and not have to do any other declaration work. Then recognize would then be assigning both add and adding as global this extensions.
Yeah, I thought already that we actually in the Imba definition file that we inject in the extension, I thought we actually added anonymous like any keys to the global object to disable error messages for any sort of access of keys on the global object, but I might be wrong. I can check it out.
Sorry to cut you off, Sindre. I just wanted to ask quickly, Donald, I see you joined later. If you have any question, this is the last call for questions, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So go ahead, Sindre, sorry.
I tried it out on the new version of the extension right now, so I'll just try it here as well. So
that'll probably erase my pain point there.
So if you actually do if you refer to global dot something, to me it seems like it won't report any errors on any keys.
Well, I know using global this to define the alternate verb forms, and they were throwing errors. Well, they were getting little squiggly lines under them as not being recognized yet.
Inside of an Imba file, or when accessing from a JavaScript or TypeScript file?
Well, I'm just looking inside Imba. I'm not even looking at the generated JavaScript.
That's weird, since I'm actually right here. I'm pretty sure I'm running the existing version or the public version of the VS Code Imba extension here, and I don't get any squiggly lines when either setting or accessing arbitrary keys on global this dot or global dot, which is just nameless.
And maybe I'm using a stale version of the extension.
Yeah, that could be. That's another important thing. There are two separate Imba extensions living at the same time in the extension marketplace, and we definitely need to disable the old one. I just haven't gotten around to
which one should I make sure I have disabled? That could be my problem.
Yeah, I think the what's the name of the? I need to search for them to see. So one is called called Imba, and the other one is called VS. So the identifier of the one you should use, I think, is scrimba.vsimba. But the old one is scrimba.imba. It's the reason I'm hesitating is that it's very messed up on my computer because I have locally symlinked the extension, so it doesn't appear as it should. I need to search in the.
Okay, so here's a message from the chat. Donald writes, "Hi everyone. I just have one question. Is Imba going to get types like TypeScript? For example, can I specify what the function should expect or what a function is returning? Thanks."
Yeah, so it's already kind of works in a very limited way. In the next release, it's better. So the compiler will not care about types at all, but we do support type annotations with a very succinct syntax. I'm not sure if the syntax is the will be the final syntax, but yeah, you can even do import type like you can in TypeScript. And you should be able to, with any sort of variable or property access or parameter in a function, you should be able to add the type annotations. Not even sure if we have any documentation for that now. But yeah, so eventually it will not be typed like statically like TypeScript, but it will essentially be a kind of in between JavaScript and TypeScript, where you can look at it as JavaScript, where you have inline and much more flexible JSDoc type annotations. So you will get all the benefit from the tooling with auto completions and warnings and things, but the compiler itself will not care about it at all right now. So yeah, but there are, again, quite a few limitations to this. We don't have a good syntax for specifying the return type of a function now. In my experience, the return type is almost always inferenced correctly as long as you maybe add type annotations to some of the parameters the function expects and such. But yeah, there are definitely limitations.
Cool. So thinking about the next meeting, did this time work for you, 2:30 p.m.?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we can do one next week as well, but after that, maybe we should go back to like a bi-weekly schedule, unless things are progressing enough to actually have substantial things to show. Or we can ask people. So it's fine for me to do it every week, and maybe that's good for people to be able to jump in and ask questions.
Yeah, I think like let's do what works best for you. If a bi-weekly schedule is better, then let's do that. And we can also ask. I can write something in the Discord and ask. But if there's nothing else, it would be nice to wrap up now. So
yeah, I'm hoping to as soon as we get the VS Code extension updated, I really want to get that new thing working on Scrimba so that we can actually do examples and projects on Scrimba again. That will also make things easier to be able to demonstrate and show things like type annotations and such.
Yeah, definitely. And it would also be easier for people to just get started without having to do any setup.
Yeah.
Cool. Have a great week and see you next week, right? Call next week, or are we going to change that to 2 weeks from now? Let's talk on Discord and then figure it out.
Yeah, let's take it next week. So the
weekly is good for now.
The VS Code extension. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The VS Code extension you want to install is the one that is just called Imba instead of VS Code -Imba. And the current version should be 2.5.3, I think. And I need to remove the old one because, as I see, that's the old one is the one that actually has the most installs as well. So it's really, we have to just remove that.
That's probably what's throwing all my squiggly lines then.
Yeah, yeah. Let's hope.
Cool. Thanks for taking the time, and
you too.
See you next time.
Yep, thanks a lot. See you next time.
Bye.
Cool. Talk to you later, folks. Bye.